All right, and let's take care of this next one. So the question sentence is always where we turn our attention to first. And we clearly see that it says, how many hours? Okay, so when we see hours, to me, that's time. So I always want to relate word problems to actual math. So I know how many hours means time. And the time frame that we're discussing is the time until they, quote unquote, meet. So who are we talking about? We're talking about a mountain guide and we're talking about a rescue climber. So here's what's going on, everyone. A mountain guide at 8,400 feet descends at this rate. Let me show you what that looks like. So we have right over here, the mountain guide is, let's say, at the top of this mountain. And this mountain guide is, again, 8,400 feet in the air and is descending at 1,050 feet per hour. Okay, sounds good. Now from there, we see that the rescue climber, I'm going to go ahead and highlight this person here in purple. The rescue climber starts at 2,100 feet, so all the way down here. And what happens is they ascend at 350 feet per hour. Okay, so let's write that down and show that here, that we're ascending at 350 feet per hour. All right, so we have all of this going on, and don't forget, what we're trying to determine is how long it'll take for these two people to meet. As this person's going down and this person's climbing up, they're going to meet somewhere in the middle. Now, let's understand how we're actually going to find that time. And it's going to be using our formula straight up. Let me write that out. Distance equals rate times time. If I want to know the time that it takes them to meet, well, then we need to know the rate at which they're meeting at and the distance that they have to overcome to meet. Everyone, I think we all know what the easier question is. That distance. If your mountain guide starts at 8,400 and then your rescue climber starts at 2,100, my party people, what am I going to do to figure out what my distance is going to be? How do I take these values and figure out what distance they are apart? It's going to be a straightforward subtraction. It's going to be subtraction because if we start at 8,400 over here and also start at 2,100, the gap subtracting is going to tell us the distance that we're trying to cover. One more time, we're going to subtract these two values right here and here because that'll give us the distance between these points. So let's do that and see what we get. 8,400 minus 2,100 leaves us with 6,300 feet. So there's the first part, 6,300 feet. Now the next part is really figuring out what we're going to plug in for the rate. So this is the interesting part, everyone, because we have two options. We either take these rates and add them, or take the rates and subtract them. In this case, everybody, in the case of having this climber facing this way, this climber facing the opposite way, what are we supposed to do with those rates when we're facing opposite directions? Yeah, we're supposed to add. So remember, if we're going in the same direction, we subtract to get the gap. If we're going in opposite directions, we're adding the two parts together to get that total distance. And if you don't believe me here, it's the same idea. Again, facing each other is the same as this. It's the same as opposite directions because you cover this distance, cover that distance, and you add them together to see what you cover. So that's the grand purpose here. Let me just erase this in one go. But that's our grand purpose. Watch. 1,050, add 350. That ends us up at 1,400. So 0, 5 plus 5 is 10. There's our 4, and there's our 1. So that's our true rate, everyone. That's the biggest key here. Understanding how to manipulate these two rates. Now we see that we're going in opposite directions, so we'll add those rates together. Booyah right there. And we multiply by time. the last step that we take here to finish this problem is simply division. We're going to divide both sides here by 1400. And look at how smooth this can be. Once we understand what to do with these values, the calculation is actually pretty straightforward. So we'll do 6300 minus 1400. So we'll cancel out that first pair of zeros, then cancel out the next pair of zeros. So that gives us 63 divided by 14. And what I will do to figure that out is just a little bit of long division right over here on the right side. So 14 going into 63. 14 goes into 6, it doesn't. 14 goes into 63, that'll be 4 times. 14 times 4, that gives me 6, carry the 1, and then 4 plus 1 is 5. So yeah, that's going to be 4. We subtract 56, and that ends up giving me 7 as the remainder. But to finish things up smoothly, we have our decimal, and we have a 0 that will drop down. 14 goes into 70. How many times here, everybody? That's going to end up being 5 times, absolutely. 14 times 5 is 70, which makes it a clean division. And there we go. Our final answer here will be 4.5 hours. And there we are. There's our correct final answer. And the correct answer here is B. All right, next question up here. So we're going to take care of this in the same way per usual. We're going to understand what the goal is first. So the goal here is, how many girls are there? Okay, so we want to quantify the number of girls in this scenario. So I'm going to highlight that. We want to know the number of girls. So I'll just write that. All right, perfect. Now I'm going to read through the information, and it's going to say, in a class, boys to girls are in a ratio of 4 to 6. Okay? And then it says there are 14 boys. How many girls? So the 14 boys that we see there, we can actually write that right over here. So we can say blank girls, 14 boys, because that's the actual number of boys, and we want to know the actual number of girls. So right there, girls to boys. Then we see this ratio written as 4 to 6, but be very careful because we don't want to get confused. I could absolutely just go ahead and ignore all caution and say 4 here, 6 there. But because of the way the ratio was written, we have to respect it. Boys is written first. That means that boys corresponds with 4. So I must write the 4 down here for the ratio for boys, and then 6 for the girls right there. So once we have this, this is where we can set up our proportion. As long as we compare the same things in the same way, we're fine. Easiest way to do that is just to write your variable and then put fraction equals fraction. X over 6 equals 14 over 4. That's how a proportion is done. Again, just write those fractions and set them equal to each other and you're done. You just have to make sure first that you're comparing the same things in the same way. Girls to boys, all good to go. Now that we're here, we have x over 6 equals 14 over 4. And what I must do is cross multiply and divide, or I can simplify first. Everyone, if I chose to simplify first, what goes into both 14 and 4 that I can divide out? What goes into 14 and 4 that I can divide out here? Yeah, they're even numbers. We can go with 2. So I'll divide 2 out of the numerator and the denominator, because once I do that, I have a simpler, easier fraction to deal with. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now, when I cross multiply and divide, look at how easy this can be. I'll do x multiplied by 2, which is 2x, and then 6 multiplied by 7, which is 42. Now that we're here, we can finalize this by dividing both sides by 2 to get the x by itself, and that'll give us x equals 21. And there we go. There's our correct answer. The number of girls is 21, and the correct answer is C.